The sun was just beginning to rise over the quiet desert when Elias Carter guided his horse toward the open land that stretched far beyond the edge of the cattle trail. The sky looked like a soft painting, brushed with colors of pink, gold, and pale blue. The air was cool enough to make his breath show for a moment before fading away. Elias had spent most of his life riding across the Southwest, and mornings like this always felt like a gift. He had the peaceful sound of hooves on dry earth, a few birds calling from distant trees, and nothing but open land all around him. But even in all that beauty, he carried a feeling inside him that he never spoke about, a quiet, heavy sadness he had learned to hide behind slow smiles and long rides. For days now, Elias had been guiding a small group of cattle through the desert, planning to join the main trail farther south. But a sudden dust storm had forced him to turn west, into land he had never traveled before. The storm had come with no warning, rolling across the sky like a giant brown cloud, making his horse nervous and making it impossible to see more than a few feet ahead. When the storm finally passed, the trail behind him had disappeared under new lines of sand, and he had no choice but to continue in the direction the wind had pushed him. He wasn't afraid. Exactly. He was used to changes in the land, but he did feel a little unsure, like a traveler who suddenly realizes the map in his pocket is missing a page. The new land was quiet and wide. Tall grasses grew near dry riverbeds, and small clusters of mesquite trees cast thin shadows on the ground. Elias rode slowly, letting his horse drink from any water pockets they discovered along the way. The cattle followed behind him, calm and steady. He kept his eyes open for landmarks, shapes of hills, unusual rocks, anything that would help him find his way back to the trail. But instead of a path, he found something he did not expect at all. It happened in the late morning, when the sun climbed higher and the heat began to settle over the desert. Elias heard a strange sound, soft, like a horse breathing, but mixed with the rustling of branches. He listened carefully. His ears were sharp from years of riding alone. He turned his horse toward the sound, curious and cautious. As he moved closer, he saw a small pony standing near a patch of thorny shrubs. The pony was beautiful, strong, and clearly cared for. Its coat brushed smooth, its mane neatly tied with beaded strands. But the poor animal was stuck. Its front reins had tangled around a thick branch, and it couldn't move forward or back without pulling painfully at its neck. Elias climbed down from his horse and spoke softly to the pony so it wouldn't get frightened. He had always been gentle with animals. Maybe it was because he knew what it felt like to be trapped in a situation you didn't ask for. He carefully pushed the branches aside, moving slowly so the pony would trust him. After a few moments of patient work, he freed the reins and stepped back. The pony shook its head and snorted in relief. "Easy there, little one," Elias said in a calm voice. He gave the animal a gentle pat on the shoulder, but before he could return to his own horse, he heard footsteps behind him. At first, he thought it might be another rider. But when he turned around, he saw a woman standing a short distance away. She was Apache, dressed in a soft buckskin dress decorated with small shells and beads that gleamed in the sun. Her long black hair was braided neatly, and her dark eyes watched him with a mixture of curiosity and confidence. She stood tall and relaxed, as if she was perfectly at home on this land, which, of course, she was. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Elias wasn't sure what to say. He didn't want her to think he was interfering with something he shouldn't be touching. "I hope you don't mind," he finally said, nodding toward the pony. "She was caught in the branches. I only helped her out." The woman studied him for a moment longer, then walked forward with graceful, steady steps. When she reached the pony, she checked the reins herself, making sure everything was fine. Only then did she turn fully toward Elias. Her expression softened, and she gave a small nod. "You did well," she said simply. Her voice was clear, warm, and strong, the kind of voice that made a person listen without even meaning to. Elias felt himself relax a little. "I'm glad," he replied. "I didn't want her getting hurt." The woman's eyes traveled up and down, observing him the same way she might study a trail or a distant hill. Elias felt just a little nervous under her gaze. But not in a bad way. It was more like she could see not only his face but something deeper inside him. Something he didn't usually let people notice. Then she said something completely unexpected. "You need a wife like me," she said. Elias froze. His mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. He blinked once, twice. Surely he had heard her wrong. The desert was quiet. The breeze was light. There were no other sounds to distract him. She had indeed said exactly what he thought she said. His heart gave a strange little jump, part surprise, part confusion. "Ma'am?" he finally managed, his voice almost a whisper. The woman didn't laugh. She didn't look embarrassed. She simply stood there with calm confidence, as if her words were as normal as commenting on the weather or the price of horses. "You walk like a man who carries too much alone," she said. "A man like that needs someone strong beside him." Elias was stunned. No one had ever said something like that to him, not even the people he'd known for years. Most folks saw him as quiet, hard-working, and dependable. But no one ever looked at him long enough to notice the weight he carried inside. How could this woman, a stranger he had known for barely a minute, speak so directly to something he hid so carefully? He wanted to respond. He wanted to say that she was mistaken, that he was fine, that he didn't need anyone. But the words wouldn't come out. Because deep down, he knew she wasn't wrong. He had spent so much of his life alone, not because he hated people, but because he didn't know how to build anything that stayed. Ranching life had taught him to move, to drift from one job to another, from one season to the next. He had never felt rooted anywhere, never felt like he belonged enough to stay. The woman continued to watch him with steady eyes, not unkind but full of understanding. "My name is Nasha," she said, breaking the silence. "And you are far from your usual trail." "Yes," Elias admitted. "The storm pushed me off course." "Storms do that," she said with a small smile. "They move things where they're meant to go." Elias wasn't sure what she meant, but her smile made the strange comment feel gentle, not confusing. Nasha walked to her pony and checked the saddle straps, then placed one foot in the stirrup. Before she mounted, she looked back at him. "You should come with me," she said. "This land can be confusing if you don't know it. I can show you a safer way." Elias hesitated. He had just met her. He didn't want to trouble her. But he also knew she was right. He didn't know this land. And he could use guidance. More than that. Something about her presence felt steadying, like standing beside a tall, strong tree after walking miles in the sun. "I'd be grateful," he said quietly. Nasha nodded once, calm and sure. "Then bring your cattle. We will go slow." Elias mounted his horse, still trying to understand what had just happened. The morning had begun with the simple task of moving cattle, and now he found himself following an Apache woman who spoke to him as if she could see straight into his life. As they began to ride side by side, the desert seemed different, still the same land, still the same sky, but somehow brighter, as if the day itself had opened a new path for him. He didn't know where this path would lead. He didn't know why Nasha had spoken those bold words to him. All he knew was that for the first time in a long while, he felt something shift inside, something like curiosity, something like hope, and he could not help glancing at her from time to time, wondering what else she might say, what else she might see, and why her words had touched him so deeply. Elias followed Nasha across the open land, watching how easily she guided her pony through the uneven ground. She seemed to know every dip in the earth, every plant, every direction the wind could travel. Her calmness made him feel steadier. Even though he still didn't fully understand what she had meant earlier, when she told him he needed a wife like her. The words stayed in his mind, the way a melody from childhood sometimes returned without warning. The sky above them grew brighter as the sun climbed, but the heat was not uncomfortable yet. A soft breeze moved through the tall grasses, making them sway like waves across the desert floor. Elias felt the mood of the land shifting quieter somehow, as if they were entering a place where footsteps mattered. Nasha turned her head slightly, listening to sounds he could not hear. She moved with a level of awareness he admired. After a while, she spoke. "Your horse trusts you," she said, Elias looked at his horse, which walked easily beside her pony. "I've had him for a long time," he replied. "He knows I won't push him too hard." Nasha nodded thoughtfully. "That is good. Some people think leadership is about giving orders. But leadership is trust." Her words made him think. He had worked with many cowhands and ranch owners over the years, and not all of them understood the importance of calmness and patience. Some tried to control everything through force or harshness, but Elias had always believed in gentler ways. Animals, like people, were more willing to follow someone who treated them kindly. They continued riding, and the land began to change. The ground grew softer, with more green plants scattered around. Small birds flew in and out of bushes, chirping lightly. In the distance, Elias noticed a cluster of smooth rocks arranged almost like a circle. He had never seen that formation before. Nasha pointed toward it. "We will rest there for a little while," she said. Elias followed her to the rocks. When they arrived, Nasha dismounted and began gathering a few pieces of dried wood from the ground. She arranged them neatly, then took out a small pouch from her saddlebag. Elias didn't know what she planned to do, but he waited respectfully. She knelt and prepared a tiny fire, not large, just enough to warm water and provide comfort. "Sit," she said softly. Elias obeyed, feeling oddly grateful for her guidance. She filled a small pot with water from a pouch and set it over the flame. Soon the water warmed, and she added a few leaves to it. The pleasant smell of herbs drifted toward him. "Tea," she explained. Elias smiled. "It smells good." Nasha poured some into a wooden cup and handed it to him. As he held it, she made another cup for herself. They sat quietly for a moment, sipping the warm tea. The silence did not feel awkward. It felt peaceful, like they were sharing something meaningful without the need for many words. After a while, Nasha spoke again. "You said the storm pushed you from your trail." "Yes," Elias replied. "I was headed south, planning to join the main cattle group. But the dust came so fast I couldn't see anything. Storms move quickly on this land," she said. "They come with messages." Elias raised an eyebrow. "Messages?" She looked at him gently. "When you are forced to change direction, it means you are meant to see something you would not have seen otherwise. You were meant to be here today." Her words stirred something inside him, though he wasn't sure what. He had never thought of storms as guiding him anywhere. Mostly he saw them as challenges to overcome, parts of nature that made his work harder. But the way she said it made the idea sound almost comforting, as if even difficulties had purpose. Elias took another sip of tea. "Do you often travel alone?" he asked. Nasha shook her head. "Not usually. But today I wanted quiet. My people are not far from here. I plan to return soon." He nodded. The idea of meeting her people made him slightly nervous, though he didn't know why. Maybe it was because he wasn't sure how they would feel about him traveling with her. "Will they welcome me?" he asked carefully. Nasha tilted her head, thinking. "They will watch you first," she admitted. "But if your heart is good, they will see it." Elias felt a warm feeling in his chest, the kind he rarely experienced. Her words reminded him of something he often forgot, that honesty and kindness could be understood without needing to be explained. People could sense them. As they finished their tea, Elias noticed Nasha looking at him again with that same deep awareness she had shown earlier. It made him feel like she was reading parts of him he didn't know were visible. "You carry quiet sadness," she said softly. Elias inhaled sharply. No one ever said things like that to him. Not his fellow riders. Not ranch owners. Not old friends. They all saw the hard-working man, the one who got things done. But Nasha saw something different, something he didn't talk about. "I guess everyone carries something," he replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "Not everyone hides it as carefully," she said. He lowered his gaze to his cup. He didn't want to burden her with his past, but her words nudged him gently, like a door opening just a little. "I lost my family early," he said quietly. "And after that, I kept moving. It felt easier not to stay in one place long enough for anything to hurt again." Nasha listened without interrupting. Her expression was full of understanding, not pity. Moving protects the heart, she said. But it also keeps the heart from growing. Elias felt the truth in that. He thought about all the towns he had drifted through, all the temporary jobs, all the nights spent staring at the stars while wondering if there was more to life than simply getting from one season to the next. Nasha stood and gently put out the small fire, then packed her things. Elias did the same. As they prepared to continue, she looked at him again. "Travel with me today," she said. "There is a calm path ahead, away from difficulties." Elias nodded. "I'll follow." They rode again across the land, and as the day warmed, their journey felt almost peaceful. They spoke sometimes, but even the quiet moments had a soft companionship. Nasha pointed out plants used for healing, marks on the ground that showed where deer had passed, and small hills that offered good places to rest. At one point, they stopped near a shallow stream where the water glimmered like glass under the sunlight. The cattle drank happily. Elias washed his face with cool water and felt refreshed. "Your land is beautiful," he said. "Everyone's land is beautiful when they learn to listen to it," Nasha replied. They rode beside the stream for a while, following its gentle bend. Elias noticed the way sunlight played on the water, turning it into silver ribbons. He wondered how many peaceful places existed in the world that he had never taken time to appreciate. After some time, Elias asked, "When you said earlier that I needed a wife like you, what did you mean by that?" Nasha smiled gently, not embarrassed or shy. "I meant you need someone strong enough to help you see your own worth," she said. "Someone who does not fear your silence. Someone who shows you a different way to walk." Her words touched him again. It wasn't a romantic suggestion, it was a spiritual one. A way of saying he needed guidance, balance, and a partner in the larger sense of life. Elias didn't know how to respond. He only knew that her presence had already begun to change something inside him, like sunlight reaching a part of the earth that had long been in shadow. As the afternoon stretched on, Nasha slowed her pony. "My people are near," she said softly. "We will reach them soon." Elias felt a mix of curiosity and nervousness. The journey had already brought unexpected moments, but meeting her community felt like another step into a world he didn't fully understand. Still, he trusted Nasha. Something about her felt steady, like a stone in a river that water flowed around without ever moving it. "Then I'll stay near you," he said, trying to show both respect and gratitude. Nasha nodded, pleased. "Walk gently, speak honestly, and you will be welcome." As they continued forward, Elias realized something important. He had begun the day as a drifting cowboy pushed off his trail by a storm, but now he was a man walking beside someone who saw him clearly, more clearly than he saw himself. And that simple truth made the desert around him feel different, almost alive with possibility. The path ahead felt uncertain, but not frightening. Because he was no longer walking it alone, Elias rode beside Nasha as the land slowly changed once again. The flat desert gave way to soft hills covered with low bushes and young trees. The air grew cooler, carrying the faint scent of pine. It felt almost like stepping into another world, one that was sheltered and alive in a calm, welcoming way. Nasha kept her pony at a steady pace, glancing back now and then to make sure Elias and his cattle were following comfortably. As they rode, Elias noticed that Nasha grew quieter, not in an unsure way, but in a thoughtful one, as if she was preparing her heart for home. Elias respected the silence, letting the soft sounds of hooves and wind fill the space between them. He wondered what her people would be like. Would they accept him? Would they question him? He hoped they would trust Nasha's judgment, because he knew she saw people with unusual clarity. Eventually, they reached a small ridge. Nasha raised her hand, signaling Elias to slow. She pointed toward the valley below. There, nestled between the hills, were several well-made lodges arranged in a graceful pattern. Smoke rose gently from cooking fires, and the sound of children laughing drifted through the warm air. Families moved about with natural rhythm, some preparing food, others weaving or tending to small gardens. It was a peaceful, lively scene, full of warmth and community. Elias felt something tighten in his chest. It wasn't fear, it was something closer to longing. He had wandered for so long that seeing a place filled with belonging made him aware of how much he lacked it. Nasha looked at him with a small, reassuring smile. "Do not worry," she said softly. "Walk with calm steps, and all will be well." Elias nodded, grateful for her steady presence. They continued down the ridge, moving slowly so the cattle would not disturb the peace of the valley. As they approached, a few people noticed them and paused their work, watching with curiosity. An outsider was a rare sight, but no one approached too quickly. They simply waited, observing with the quiet wisdom that came from years of living close to the land. Nasha stopped near a tall man with kind eyes and long, braided hair. He appeared to be a respected figure among her people. He greeted her warmly, speaking in his native language for a moment before switching to English so Elias could understand. "You have returned safely, Nasha," the man said. "And you bring a guest." "Yes," she replied. "This is Elias Carter. He helped my pony this morning. The storm brought him far from his trail, so I guided him here." The man studied Elias with gentle but careful eyes. Elias straightened his posture, wanting to appear respectful. He tipped his hat slightly, a gesture that came naturally to him. "I'm grateful for your welcome," Elias said quietly. The man nodded. "You carry no trouble with you. That is clear." Relief washed through Elias. He didn't expect full trust right away, but being seen as peaceful mattered to him. The man introduced himself as Tahoma and invited Elias to rest near a shaded area where visitors were often welcomed. As Nasha helped the community settle the cattle in a safe space with grass and water, Elias sat on a smooth log near the shade. A few children ran by, giggling and curious. One of them paused, staring at him with wide, fascinated eyes. "Why is your hat so big?" the child asked boldly. Elias laughed gently. "To keep the sun off my face." The child nodded as if this was the most sensible answer in the world, then ran off again. Elias felt the tension in his shoulders soften little by little. This place had a peaceful rhythm, one he had never experienced before. Later, Nasha joined him with a bowl of warm stew. She sat beside him, not too close and not too far, comfortable in the quiet space they shared. "You did well," she said. "I didn't say much," he replied with a small smile. "Sometimes quietness is the best beginning." They ate together, and Elias felt the gentle comfort of being looked after in a way he had rarely known. It wasn't grand or dramatic, it was simple, warm, and genuine. He realized how deeply he had missed such moments. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, painting everything in shades of gold, Tahoma gathered a few elders near the large central fire. He invited Elias and Nasha to join them. Elias sat respectfully across from the elders, feeling the importance of the moment. Tahoma began speaking. "Nasha tells us you have traveled far, and that the land guided you here. We welcome guests who walk with good hearts." "I'm grateful," Elias replied sincerely. One of the elders, an elderly woman with gentle eyes, leaned forward slightly. "Nasha sees people clearly," she said. "If she speaks for you, that is enough." Elias glanced at Nasha, who met his eyes calmly. He felt a warmth rise through him, gratitude mixed with something deeper he didn't yet know how to name. The conversation continued peacefully, with Elias answering simple questions about his journey, his work with cattle, and the places he had traveled. There was no pressure, no suspicion, only a soft curiosity. Elias found himself relaxing more than he had in months. After the discussion, as the elders separated to return to their evening routines, Nasha led Elias toward the firelight. The sky had turned deep blue, and stars began appearing like small silver seeds scattered across the heavens. "This is a good night for speaking truth," Nasha said quietly. Elias took a slow breath. "I'll speak what I know." She studied him for a moment, the fire reflecting in her eyes. Then she said, "You should know why I spoke those words this morning. You need a wife like me." Elias swallowed, feeling his heart beat a little faster. He had never forgotten those words. They had followed him through the entire day like a shadow. "I'd like to understand," he said. Honestly. Nasha folded her hands in her lap. In our way of speaking, that phrase does not always mean marriage. It means partnership of spirit. It means balance. It means the kind of person whose presence brings out the better part of your heart. Elias listened carefully, moved by the depth of her explanation. You walk like someone who has carried the world alone for too long, she continued. When I saw that, I spoke the truth. You need someone, whether friend or guide, who is strong enough to stand beside you. Her words filled Elias with a quiet emotion. He had been alone for so many years that he had forgotten what companionship felt like. Not just being near people, but being truly seen. I didn't realize how alone I felt until today, he admitted softly. Nasha nodded. Sometimes loneliness becomes a habit. You stop noticing it, the same way you stop noticing a stone in your shoe after many miles. Elias looked into the fire, thinking about all the nights he had spent on empty trails, watching the stars, pretending it didn't matter that no one waited for him, no one asked where he had been, or how his day had gone. You see things I don't, he said quietly. That is because you listen with your actions, not your words, she replied. But actions can hide truth. Words can reveal it. He turned to her, steadying his voice. Do you think I can change? Learn a different way of living? Nasha smiled softly. Anyone can change when they choose to. The question is, whether you want to. Elias felt something shift inside him. For the first time in many years, he wanted something new, not a different job, not a different town, but a different way of being, a way that included connection, belonging, maybe even companionship. The fire crackled gently, sending small sparks into the night air. Around them, the community moved with peaceful rhythm, soft laughter from families, gentle songs humming through the breeze, children falling asleep beside their mothers. Elias watched the scene with quiet awe. Your world is beautiful, he said. Nasha followed his gaze. It is beautiful because people care for each other. A single person alone can live a long life, but a shared life has deeper meaning. Her words settled in him like seeds, finding soil he didn't know he had. After a long moment, she added, Tomorrow, we will speak more. For tonight, rest. Let your heart grow quiet. Elias nodded slowly. Thank you, Nasha. For everything today. She rose gracefully. Good night, Elias Carter. As she walked away, Elias felt a deep sense of calm wash over him. He lay down near the soft glow of the fire, listening to the quiet sounds of the valley. For the first time in a very long while, he did not feel like a wanderer. He felt like someone who had arrived exactly where he was meant to be. And as he drifted into sleep, he knew that tomorrow would bring answers about the path ahead, about his place in this world, and about the connection growing between him and the remarkable woman who had seen through him with a single glance. Morning came softly to the valley. The first light touched the tops of the trees, painting them with a golden glow. Birds began to sing from branches overhead, greeting the new day with calm notes. Elias woke slowly, feeling more rested than he had in many months. The cool air brushed gently across his face, and for a moment, he simply lay still, listening to the peaceful sounds around him. He sat up gradually, stretching his tired muscles. The memory of the night before returned to him, Nasha's warm smile, her gentle words, the calm acceptance he felt among her people. Something inside him had shifted, though he wasn't sure yet where it would lead. He stood and brushed the dust from his clothes, then walked toward the stream to wash his face. The water was clear and cold, refreshing him instantly. As he straightened, he saw Nasha approaching from a short distance. She moved like she always did, quietly, gracefully, as if she were part of the morning itself. Good morning, Elias, she said with a soft smile. Good morning, he replied, feeling a warmth rise through him simply at the sound of her voice. She handed him a small bowl filled with warm porridge and berries. Eat, she said. There is much to speak about today. Elias took the bowl gratefully and sat beside her on a smooth, flat rock. They ate in easy silence at first, the kind that felt natural between them. When they finished, Nasha turned so she could see him more clearly. You said last night that you wanted to learn a new way of living, she reminded him gently. Elias nodded. I meant it. Then today, We speak of choices, she said. Her tone was calm, not heavy or dramatic. But the moment still felt important, like stepping onto a path that would change everything. Nasha folded her hands in her lap and continued. You came here because the storm pushed you off the trail. But you stayed because something inside you opened. You let yourself be seen. Elias listened carefully, wanting to understand every word. In my people's way of thinking, she said, sometimes the land guides a person to a place they need, not a place they expected. You were meant to find more than directions here. Elias lowered his eyes, thinking deeply. All his life he had wandered, believing the land was only something to travel across. He had never imagined it could lead him to meaning. Nasha watched him with soft understanding. But now you must decide how you will walk from this day forward. Will you return to the life you knew? Or will you choose a new one? Elias took a slow breath. I don't want to walk alone anymore, he said honestly. That is a beginning, she replied. She stood and motioned for him to follow. They walked together toward a small rise overlooking the valley. From up there, Elias could see everything: the lodges, the gardens, children playing, elders speaking quietly, smoke rising in thin lines toward the sky. It was a picture of peace, of connection, of shared lives woven together like threads in a blanket. Nasha pointed toward the far edge of the valley, where a gentle path led out toward the open desert. If you choose that path, she said, you return to the life of moving from place to place. It is a simple life, but also a lonely one. She turned and gestured toward the community behind them. If you stay here, your life will be different. Slower, fuller. You will learn new ways of thinking and living. You will become part of something larger than yourself. Elias swallowed. He felt the weight of the choice. But it wasn't heavy in a painful way. It was heavy in a meaningful way. Like holding something precious. He looked at Nasha. And you? He asked softly. Where do you stand in this choice? Nasha took a gentle breath. I stand wherever truth stands, she said. If you walk away, I will remember you kindly. If you choose to stay, I will walk beside you, as long as your heart stays open. Her words settled deep inside him, warming him like sunlight. For a long moment, he simply looked at her, taking in the calm strength in her expression. She had seen him more clearly than anyone ever had. She had spoken truths he didn't even know he needed to hear. Being near her felt like stepping into a clearer version of himself. But he also knew he could not make this decision lightly. He turned away and watched the desert beyond the valley. It stretched far and wide, familiar in its silence. He had spent years crossing land like that. It held memories, good and difficult. It held the life he had built with his own hands, but it also held his loneliness, the kind that settled into his bones, the kind he had tried to ignore. He spoke slowly, choosing his words with care. I have spent most of my life moving, he said, sleeping under open skies, working with cattle, going from one place to another without stopping long. I used to think that kind of life was enough. But now, he paused, searching for the right truth. But now I wonder what it would be like to be seen every day, he continued, to belong somewhere, to not always be on my way to a new place. Nasha listened without speaking, letting him think. Elias turned to her again. When you said I needed someone strong beside me, I didn't understand at first. But I understand now. You meant I needed a life with roots. A life with meaning. She nodded gently. Yes. A tree without roots cannot grow, no matter how tall it tries to stand. Elias smiled softly. I think I've been trying to stand without roots for too long. They stood together in quietness for a moment, watching the morning unfold around them. The valley shimmered with light. Children ran in the distance. The wind brushed against Elias's face like a soft hand. Everything felt alive and full of possibility. Finally, Elias spoke again. Nasha, I don't know everything yet. I don't know every skill your people know. or how to live here the right way. But I want to learn. I want to stay, if your people will have me." Nasha's expression softened into a warm, peaceful smile. "They will," she said. "And so will I." Elias felt something inside him open, like a door he didn't know existed. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't loud. It was simple, steady, and real. He felt hope, a strong, steady kind he hadn't felt in years. Nasha placed her hand lightly on his arm. "Come," she said. "There is much to learn today. And tomorrow. And every day after that." They walked back toward the valley together. As they descended the hill, Tahoma approached with a nod of welcome. Already understanding the choice Elias had made, "You will find your place here," Tahoma said. "Every person who walks with kindness has a place among us." Elias felt gratitude swell in him. He had never imagined he would be welcomed into a community like this, let alone one that felt so warm and grounded. For the rest of the day, Nasha showed him small but important things: the way they gathered food, the way they prepared meals, the way they honored the land with simple expressions of gratitude. Elias listened, watched, and learned, feeling something inside him grow lighter. In the evening, when the sun dipped low and painted the valley in soft orange light, Elias and Nasha walked together near the stream. The water glimmered quietly beside them. "You made a brave choice today," Nasha said. Elias shook his head gently. "No," he replied. "I made the right choice." Nasha looked at him with warm eyes. "Sometimes the right choice is also the brave one." They stood quietly for a long moment, watching the sky shift into twilight. Elias felt calm, grounded, and whole in a way he had never felt before. At last, he spoke in a soft, steady voice. "Nasha, will you walk with me? Not just today, but in the days to come." Nasha smiled, her expression full of gentle certainty. "Yes, I will walk beside you. Not as someone you depend on, but as someone who believes in the man you are becoming." Elias felt a warmth settle through him. He realized that the storm had not pushed him off his path, it had guided him to a new one. A path filled with meaning, connection, and a sense of belonging he had long forgotten how to feel. The stars began appearing overhead, and the wind moved softly across the valley. Elias and Nasha walked side by side, steps easy and matched, as if they had always walked this way. And in that moment, Elias understood something simple and beautiful. He had not lost his way at all. He had finally found it.